In the dying days of the Wild West, when the law was closing in and the railroads ran faster than horses, one man refused to change. He robbed trains. He led a gang. He stared down sheriffs and made his stand. And in the end, he paid the price in a way no outlaw ever had before. This is the true story of the last outlaw, Black Jack Ketchum. Before the legend, there was just a boy named Thomas Edward Ketchum. Born in 1863 in Texas, Tom grew up in a country still reeling from the Civil War. He wasn't raised a criminal. His parents were ranchers, decent folks. But as Tom got older, the West started changing. The railroads were stretching out like steel snakes. Cattle towns were turning into cities. Cowboys, they were becoming obsolete. And for a man like Tom, whose world was right in the open range, change didn't sit easy. Some say Tom got his start with the devil's rope, barbed wire. When ranchers started fencing off land, it was the beginning of the end for the open range. Tom, like many cowboys, took it personally. He drifted, picked up work here and there, but somewhere along the trail, he crossed a line. And that's when Black Jack was born. Now, here's where things get murky. Historians argue whether Tom Ketchum was the Black Jack. Some say he was mistaken for another outlaw with the same nickname. But whether it was mistaken identity or destiny, Tom became Black Jack. He formed a gang with his brother, Sam Ketchum, and they set their sights on the railroads, the new gold mines of the West. Their favorite target? The Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. Between 1896 and 1899, the Ketchum gang hit trains across New Mexico and Arizona. They weren't Robin Hoods, they weren't heroes. But to some folks, they were a symbol of rebellion, a dying breed lashing out at a changing world. There's one story from 1899. The gang stopped a train outside Folsom, New Mexico. Armed and masked, they took the express car. But what they didn't know was that the law had been tipped off. A posse was on their heels. The gang's luck ran out in July of 1899. During a failed robbery near Ute Park, Tom's brother Sam was shot and later died of his wounds. The gang splintered. Members scattered. Tom went solo. But here's the part that makes Black Jack Ketchum's story so strange. A year later, alone, desperate, maybe even half mad, Tom tried to rob the same train, in the same spot, by himself. That's right, one man, one rifle, one last stand. On August 16, 1899, Tom boarded the train with a sawed-off shotgun. But the conductor wasn't having it. Tom was shot before he could even reach the express car. Bleeding and broken, he was taken to Clayton, New Mexico. He would never ride again. Now, here's where history turns strange and grim. Tom was tried not just for robbery, but for attempted train robbery. And in New Mexico at the time, that was a capital crime. The law saw him as a threat, a holdover from a lawless time that needed to end. On April 26, 1901, Tom Black Jack Ketchum was sentenced to death by hanging. What happened next became one of the most infamous executions in American history. The scaffold was built tall, too tall, and the noose, it wasn't measured right. When they pulled the lever, the drop snapped Black Jack's head clean off. The crowd gasped. The legend was sealed. Tom Ketchum died in 1901. The last man hanged in New Mexico for train robbery. Some call him a fool. Some call him a martyr to the Old West. But no matter how you look at it, Black Jack's story marked the end of something. The outlaws were gone, the frontier was closing, and the legend was all that remained. So the next time you see a dusty railroad track stretching into the sunset, remember the man who tried to rob one, alone, one last time. He was brave. He was reckless. He was the last outlaw.